I don't often find myself agreeing with Father James Martin that often, but today I actually do on something. Well, what is it? Well, odds are you're not unaware of what's gone down in the church in the past week in regards to the Vatican issuing a declaration that allows priests to bless same-sex couples. But I think there's one major problem with this declaration that was released by the DDF, which is the Dicastery for the Doctrine of the Faith. It was approved by Pope Francis. The Latin title of it is Fiducia Supplicans, which when translated literally into English, actually means everything's going to hell in a handbasket. No, it doesn't mean that, but I can understand why people are getting upset here. It's on the pastoral meaning of blessings. Now, one specific word in that document is what I've got issue with. Everything else, totally fine with. It's just one specific word that for me is a fatal flaw on this. And today we're going to dive deep into why I think Father James Martin is spot on about something he recently said on X, but how the declaration that was released by the Vatican has this fatal flaw that has a lot of bishops around the world rejecting the entire document, forbidding their priests to follow its directives. And it does say in the document, though, it says, no, this should be implemented in such a way that avoids, quote, all serious forms of scandal and confusion among the faithful. Well, good luck with that at this point. What's going on? That's almost like me telling my kids, like giving them all a firearm and a mojito and telling them, hey, now remember dad's number one rule, safety first, kids, okay? Look, the horse is out of the barn. And you know, I am not kind of like a hot take kind of a guy. I'm not interested in being Catholic TMZ, that I've got to just get my opinion out within 5 minutes of any breaking news story. That's kind of not my temperament. I like to sit on things a while. And so if you're like me, you saw this in a couple of different waves or steps. Step number one, you probably saw the headlines like I did on secular media. Kind of set the alarm bells like, whoa, what the heck is going on? Step two, you kind of dove into kind of some Catholic commentary on it and hopefully went to the primary document. And when you did this, you realized, okay, secular media really has misinterpreted what was in the document. But then when you finish reading it, you're left at step three, which is kind of scratching your head. Okay, am I getting too worked up about what this says, or am I missing something, or is this just not a big deal? Like, what should I feel? Because I feel kind of upset, confused. What should I think? And so for step one, I want to encourage you to read the document itself. It doesn't take that long, maybe 15 minutes. I'll put the link in the show notes. And so what I did is I took the document and I brought it to church. I went into Eucharistic adoration, took 15, 20 minutes, and just took my time to go through the document. And because it seems that there's like really no small amount of division and confusion about this, I wanted to kind of give my 2 cents. First thing I want to lay out before we dive in is that I believe everybody needs blessings, right? I mean, you don't earn them by not experiencing same-sex attractions. Like, I don't have a problem with blessing any individual on earth. I don't care if they're in Hamas or whatever. Like, if they want a priest to bless them, like, let's give some grace to that person. So no matter who you're attracted to, we all need blessings from God to live out the Christian life. Amen? Okay, all on board with that. Secondly, I actually look forward to the day in the Catholic Church where we have canonized saints who experienced same-sex attractions. I think we may already have some saints in heaven who experience same-sex attractions, but, you know, perhaps they didn't live in an era of church history where that could really become something that they could share in their story. But the fact is, I can't wait for the day where we got stained glass windows of Saint so-and-so from Cincinnati who experienced same-sex attractions, trusted God with his body, glorified God with his body, pursued a life of chastity and of virtue. I'm looking forward to these saints. I think I've already met, honestly, some of them saints in the process. If you want to encounter some of them, we've got a link at our website, chastity.com/SSA, where you can kind of read some of their testimonies, watch some of their podcasts, some of the videos that they've done. These people are not unicorns, okay? They just don't believe that they have to live into one of two camps of gay pride or gay shame. They actually see chastity as a viable and joyful option. Third point, kind of just foundational. One thing I really do appreciate about Pope Francis is his pastoral style of his understanding that pastoral care is essential, that we've got to go to those who are marginalized, those kind of on the periphery. He says that we should minister to those in to such a way that we smell like the sheep. And so I appreciate that, like the fact that he understands that evangelization is more than just winning an argument. In my own ministry, I think there aren't a lot of things that bring me more joy than after I give a high school chastity talk, having students who come up afterwards who identify as LGBT and they want a hug and they want a selfie. Like one girl said to me after a talk recently, she got trans buttons on and the rainbow, this and that. And she said, after your talk, she said, this is the first time in a very long time that I actually wanted to start praying to God again. And like, there aren't a lot of things that bring me more joy to hear that. I saw on YouTube, someone commented on a video I did on same-sex attractions, and he said, quote, that honestly was the first time in 14 years that I have felt like I'm not an abomination to God. I felt like a dagger came out of my heart. And so, trust me, I get the importance of the pastoral approach, and it's super important. And so I appreciate that about the Holy Father. Also, just last foundational point, like, I'm not a sedevacantist. I do believe that Pope Francis is our Pope. A friend of mine, he and his wife were having fertility problems, and he had an opportunity to meet Pope Francis. And honestly, to be frank, he's not a big Pope Francis fan, okay? But he said, hey, got an opportunity, we'll go. And they got to meet the Holy Father and ask the Holy Father if they could pray because they've got these infertility struggles, and Holy Father gave them a blessing. Pregnant again. They had like 3 or 4 kids in a row after that. And he said, I'm a Latin Mass guy, he said, and I'm not all on board with the Holy Father's appointments that he's been making of cardinals and his decisions about this or that. But he said, you know what? The seat of Peter is active. And so regardless of where we stand on some of his policies, he is our Holy Father. And I'm a loyal son of the church, and I'm not jumping off the boat. And so just some foundational points before we dive in. Now, first, what the document does not say, okay? It does not give priests a right to officiate gay marriages, right? It's not saying that same-sex unions can be blessed. It's not happening. It says very clearly in the document, we're not legitimizing how these people are living. And, when you bless them, there shouldn't be any wedding garments that they're wearing. There's no justice of the peace, no wedding rings, none of that stuff going on. So it's saying that's very clear. Now, in response to this, a lot of good Catholics are saying, hey, victory. Okay, great. This is a great document. They're just basically shutting the door on all the shenanigans of the German bishops over there. They're not caving in on same-sex marriage. Hooray. It's just showing us how to accompany people. I mean, if you look at the document, it even quotes St. Therese of Lisieux, Pope Benedict, kind of as if like the little flowered B16 are all on board with blessing same-sex couples. And so as a response, some people could look at it and be like, okay, well, there's nothing to see here. There's nothing new. And this is where I agree with Father James Martin. Look at what he said on X. He said, regarding Vatican declaration on same-sex blessings, be wary of the, quote, nothing has changed response to today's news. It is a significant change. And so the first thing we need to acknowledge, like, I'm on board with Father James Martin. This is a significant change. Something is new here. And it says in the document, now we're going to quote this here, put it up on the screen for you. It says, the value of this document, however, is that it offers a specific and innovative contribution to the pastoral meaning of blessings, permitting a broadening and enrichment of the classical understandings of blessings, which is closely linked to a liturgical perspective. Such theological reflection, based on the pastoral vision of Pope Francis, implies a real development from what has been said about blessings in the magisterium and the official texts of the church. Now, the bold in there is my emphasis, not theirs, but it goes on and it says, the church, moreover, must shy away from resting its pastoral praxis on the fixed nature of certain doctrinal or disciplinary schemes, especially when they lead to a, quote, narcissistic and authoritarian elitism, whereby instead of evangelizing, one analyzes and classifies others, and instead of opening the door to grace, one exhausts his or her energies in inspecting and verifying. Honestly, I found that paragraph a little bit cringy because what it feels like to me is splitting. And what I mean by that, splitting is a term used in the psychological sciences of somebody perhaps who's experienced profound trauma, typically as a kid, and as a trauma response to that, they tend to see people in very black or white rigid categories. That person is totally safe. That person is all bad. And it's a way to kind of keep yourself safe. It's a survival mechanism because we can't have gray. We can't have full color because if you're gray, you could be black. You could hurt me. So I need to be real clear who's safe, who's not. And so I find that the document, in my opinion, kind of does this. It's kind of saying, like, if you're Orthodox, then you're, a bit unpastoral. You're rigid. You're narcissistic, somewhat Pharisaical. But on the other hand, those who are pastoral, they're not so focused on the fixed nature of certain doctrinal or disciplinary schemes. To me, this is a caricature. It kind of seems to pit truth and love against each other. But if you're offering someone love, but you're not giving them the truth, what you're giving them is false compassion. What you're giving them is misguided mercy. And it goes on to say this. It says, quote, Thus, when people ask for a blessing, an exhaustive moral analysis should not be placed as a precondition for conferring it. For those seeking a blessing should not be required to have prior moral perfection. I didn't like that because no one's saying that. Like, no one's saying perfection is needed. This is a straw man argument. You're kind of exaggerating the claims of your opponent in an argument in order to dismantle their argument more efficiently. But it ends up weakening your point because you're not representing their point fairly. Nobody is saying that in order to get a blessing, you need to have an exhaustive moral analysis before getting a blessing. Because look, blessings, it's true, they're not based on moral achievement. I heard someone say recently, like at the end of the Mass, the priest isn't going to say, okay, stand up if you haven't sinned, right? I mean, at the end of our Mass, our priest doesn't get up and say, hey, look, anyone who has not committed any more than 5 venial sins this week, go on ahead and stand up so I can give you your blessing. I'd be like, look, Father, I've committed 5 venial sins since you gave me communion 10 minutes ago, just dealing with my kids in the pew here, I'm disqualified. And so like, we're all on board. Okay, look, grace is a gift. It's not some kind of trophy. We're all on board with that. So, well, what's the innovation? What's new? What's the one word that I've got a problem with? And the bishops are having problems with? And well, the word is this. The word is couple. Because before, no blessings could be given for marriage. No blessings could be given for unions, but you could give blessings to individuals. The new development now is that now there's this new category. So we've got marriage and civil unions and all that. And can't do the blessing for that, but you can bless individuals. But then there's this category, kind of couples. Now what's being said is for that category, we can give couples blessings. Now, ever since I was a little kid, I've always felt that when the priest gives a blessing, something big is happening there. I didn't quite know what it was. I couldn't put on my finger on it, but I've always sensed something big is happening in a blessing. Right before I give chastity talks, if I see any priest, around, I'll make a beeline to him and said, Father, will you give me your blessing before I give the talk? And he'll give that kind of a spontaneous blessing. And I know something is going on at that moment. And so someone might say, okay, well, why wouldn't you want that, for people? Why wouldn't you want that? Don't you want everybody to be blessed? Well, I think one point that I haven't really heard addressed yet in the commentary on this is when it talks about ascending blessings. Now, the document is beautiful in its language, talking about the blessings. It distinguishes descending blessings, where God is kind of blessing us, or we're asking him to bless something like, I'll bless my mashed potatoes, bless us, O Lord, and these thy gifts. So it's calling down a blessing. But then it also pivots and it talks about ascending blessings. And this is something that many people, including myself, sometimes wrestle to understand. Okay, I'm blessing God. How can I bless the blessed one? What does that really mean? You'll even see this kind of blessing in Christian music, like 10,000 Reasons. Bless the Lord, O my soul. It's an ascending blessing. One of my favorite examples of it in scriptures out of the book of Daniel, chapter 3, where it says things like sun and rain, bless the Lord. Frost and chill, bless the Lord. Praise and exalt him above all forever. Hananiah, Azariah, Mishael, bless the Lord. Holy men of humble heart, bless the Lord. I remember we were on the wilderness backpacking retreat we did in the Rocky Mountains this summer, and for morning prayer, that was the reading. And so it was so easy to pray that while we're literally praying together in this kind of cathedral of God's creation, this forest and the mountains and the lake, just noting that everything by virtue of its very nature is blessing God. All things bless the Lord by the nature of their very being. And so that's a form of ascending blessing. And so here's the question though. Individuals can do this, right? But how can a same-sex couple bless the Lord? What is the purpose of being a couple? When I talk to the high school kids, I often point out that dating is kind of like getting on a freeway that only has 2 exits. Breakup, marriage, that's it. And if that's the reality of dating, then what's the point of committing to anybody unless you can see this relationship going the distance to marriage? And so what distinguishes a friendship from a relationship is the direction of the two. You can have a pair of people, you can have friendship between 2 people, but that's different than having a couple. A couple is something unique. Why would it be okay to bless 2 individuals, but not a couple? Think about this. Let's really work through this according to what the document is saying. If the priest can bless couples that are in quote unquote irregular situations or same-sex couples, what does that actually mean? We're going to go extreme on this and hang on with me because I know this is going to get a little dicey here, but it's to make a point. The document says very clearly, since perfection is not needed and we should not give people this exhaustive moral analysis prior to a blessing, I want to give you a couple cases here. You have 2 males and they are in a same-sex relationship. They are romantically involved. They would consider themselves to be a couple, and they do wish to receive a blessing. Can they get one? Well, the document says yes. Okay, well, now let's flesh out the details. The two males happen to be, and I'm sorry to even say this, but a priest and an altar boy. And he's groomed this poor victim into actually thinking that there's some kind of a couple. But you realize real quick from this that just because two people consider themselves to be a couple does not mean that the church should bless them as a couple. And obviously, anybody hears that, we're like, well, of course, that's not a couple, that's a crime. Okay, that guy doesn't need a blessing. He needs a prison cell for doing that kind of stuff. That's not even consensual. It's abuse. Fair enough. We're all on board right here, okay? So let's scale it back a little bit. No kids involved, no abuse here, just two consenting adults. You got two grown men, and they know that they should be chaste, and they kind of want to grow in their relationship with God, but they are romantically involved. Can they receive a blessing from a priest? Well, the document would say yes, that they can. Well, now let's flesh out the details. These two adult males are a bishop and a priest. Can they receive a blessing from a priest? A person would hear, no, that's a scandal. They're breaking their vows. That one is not even on the table. Okay, I'm totally in agreement. Okay, let's scale it down a little bit more. We have a priest and a parishioner. Okay, they're not asking for legitimization of what's going on right here. They just want a blessing. Most people would still say, no, you can't do that. He's breaking his vows. She could be in a marriage, not happening. Okay, no blessing for them. Okay, fair enough. Let's scale it down. There's nobody in the clergy involved here. Rather, it's a parishioner with his mistress. Do they get a blessing? Hopefully, they'd say, no, we're not going to bless adultery. Okay, well, let's scale it back. Okay, no adultery going on here. No one breaking their vows, so to speak. What about polyamorous couples, right? I mean, if we can bless a couple, why can't we bless a throuple? I mean, love is love. I saw it on the bumper sticker the other day. And it might seem kind of bizarre in our culture, this idea of throuples, but it actually happens more often in, rural areas in Africa, these kind of irregular situations. Can we actually bless a man with multiple wives? Can we do that? Would that create confusion? Would that create scandal for the church? Most people would say, no, none of those people get blessings. Okay. And I could see some people even objecting here, but like, well, look, if you're going to object to same-sex couples getting, a blessing, then, can cohabiting, heterosexual couples get a blessing? I mean, they're not living perfectly. Or what if you have an engaged couple who's actually really trying to practice chastity? They're not perfect. They've had some struggles. Do they not get blessed because they haven't been perfect leading up to their wedding day? Like, where do we really draw the line here? The confusion is caused because we think the line has to do about the moral perfection of the person receiving the blessing, when in reality, the difficulty here is it isn't so much the morality of the couple and how they're practicing it. It's the nature of their relationship. The church is only in the business of blessing one kind of romantic relationship, and that is one that is ordered towards marriage and family life. Why would it be a problem if the church blesses other quote-unquote couples? Well, let's actually play this out. The document says clearly bishops are not supposed to draft specific rites on this. Rather, it should be kind of spontaneous, not liturgical or even semi-liturgical. It says, quote here, such a blessing may instead find its place in other contexts, such as a visit to a shrine, a meeting with a priest, a prayer recited in a group, or during a pilgrimage. Okay, let's play this out. Let's really apply this. Okay, let's take a group pilgrimage of same-sex couples to a shrine. Let's say it's pick a beautiful one, the Shrine of the Blessed Sacrament, where Mother Angelica is, okay? Not only are the couples going to come on this little pilgrimage, they're going to bring their kids, okay? The adopted kids, the kids that were conceived in vitro fertilization or surrogate motherhood or whatever. So they're bringing the kids. There's no wedding gowns. There's going to be no wedding cakes, no rings, no justice of the peace, just the couples, just their kids, and let's say a photographer who's going to be pretty happy to put this on social media, give it to the New York Times or whatever. And they approached the priest right there in front of the altar and said, hey, Father, could we have a spontaneous blessing for each of our couples and our families? Could we have that blessing for us as couples? What should the priest do? Okay, what does he do there? Because what if these couples have already been civilly married, okay? How can we say we're blessing the couple, but we're not blessing the marriage? Like, well, what is the priest supposed to do? In my opinion, it kind of puts the priest in a position of being a kind of a Christian bakery shop owner. And what I mean by that is, like, you've seen the lawsuits going back and forth. Well, this same-sex couple wants us to bake a cake. It's against my values. They end up going to court. What is the priest supposed to do here? He can't ask the DDF over in the Vatican because the document actually says, and again, here's the quote, thus, beyond the guidance provided above, no further responses should be expected about possible ways to regulate details or practicalities regarding blessings of this type. Honestly, I don't recall any church declaration that's ever made such a caveat. We're not going to give you any more answers, so don't even bother asking about them. What's being done is just like, hey, you guys figure it out. Use your pastoral sensitivities. These are just going to be spontaneous blessings. Do what you're going to do. But this theological climate of ambiguity is precisely what gave rise to the dubia. This was the 5 questions that the cardinals submitted to the Holy Father, asking, certain questions. So, Holy Father, what is the stance on this? What is the church teaching? What are you saying on this? And there was no answer given. It was just radio silence for a while. And then eventually there was some clarification, but that gave rise to more questions, and then gave rise to this and more confusing. But the scriptures are clear that the Holy Spirit is the author of peace and not of confusion. This is why not everyone's rejoicing. There's 2 bishops over in Kazakhstan that have forbidden all of the priests to do these blessings. Archbishop Vigano, Cardinal Gerhard Mueller. He was the former prefect for the Congregation of the Doctrine of the Faith. And these people are saying, look, this is blasphemous. This is sacrilegious. We can't do this. There's African churches doing this. And if their response, or even my response today, is upsetting to you, honestly, I'm open to critique. Leave your comments below. Let me know, am I missing something? Because I think the core issue is really this. If a couple's coming forth, or 2 people, I should say, are coming forth, because I think the word couple implies what it should be, of 2 people seeking a romantic union for the sake of something heading towards God's plan for human marriage. But let's say you have 2 men coming forward and they want to sincerely receive God's blessing. The question that I would ask is this: what is your desire? Are you wanting a blessing, or are you wanting an endorsement? Are you wanting grace to live out the demands of the gospel, or are you wanting permission to evade them? Really ruminate over that. Do I really want the grace? If you really want the blessing, God will give you the blessing. The priest will bless you individually to live this out, to practice chastity, to pick up your cross. And some would say, well, this is just unloving, okay? What I believe to be unloving is leading people to believe that they can find fulfillment living outside of the will of God. We cannot empty Christianity of the cross. And some might say, well, that's easy for you to say. You're married, you got kids. Honestly, no, it's not easy. The Christian life is one of the cross. It doesn't matter what vocation to which God calls us. He's calling us to meet him on the cross. If you think, well, this is not realistic, like I had mentioned above, go to the website chastity.com/SSA. Click on the link there. Watch the movies, the videos, the blogs, read the living witnesses of people who are embracing the virtue of chastity, who frankly, when they saw this document, many of them had felt disheartened of just like we're really trying to heroically pursue this and let go of something that, we desire and we crave, but we know it won't glorify God. And so I'm finding intimacy with Christ in this desert and in this struggle. And I've found community with other like-minded Catholics who experience same-sex attractions. And the Vatican comes out with this, and then I could go to church and see, a priest blessing a couple, while in my conscience it tell me God is not calling me to enter into a romantic relationship. And so this is already, despite the header in the beginning talking about let's not create any confusion about this. Confusion is here, whether we want it or not. And so this is a clarion call. I would encourage priests who may be watching this, bishops, of hold fast to the truth. Bless individuals with all of your heart. If a couple comes to you and seeks a blessing, I would say the pastoral response would be to bless them individually. They are not deprived of a single grace by you blessing them individually. In fact, you're kind of doubling the grace. I mean, you're passing it on to both of them. And this is an opportunity for evangelization. It's an opportunity to connect with them, to show them that they're seen by the church, that they're loved by the church, but that the romantic relationship is not endorsed by the church, not because the church does not love them, but precisely because the church loves them enough to not withhold the truth from them. And so, in conclusion, make sure to read the document yourself. It's going to be in the show notes. Click the link that I had mentioned below and regarding the testimonies of others pursuing this virtue of chastity. Do not be afraid. Do not be upset. Oh my gosh, is the church going to crumble? The Holy Spirit will never abandon the church. We're going to see some rough seas. Our Lady appeared to the 3 visionary children in Fatima, and Sister Lucia later said to the priest, that, at the end of the world, the final battle will be over marriage and the family. But she said, do not be afraid, because Our Lady has already crushed his head. And so I don't know if the end of the world's right around the corner, another 100,000 years. It's not for me to worry about. We just have to live like Christ died yesterday, rose today, and he's coming back tomorrow. God bless. Hey, before we go, this past summer, we got to go to World Youth Day over in Portugal. And one of the highlights of the trip for me was getting to see some amazing relics, one of which was the personal rosary of Blessed Pier Giorgio Frassati. And instead of just getting to look at it and touch it, I was actually able to hold it and pray it for a while. I got to actually pray a decade on his rosary and, walk around. I wish I could have kept that thing, but the stingy people who ran the relic exhibit wouldn't give me Pier Giorgio's personal rosary. So I came back and I thought, hey, well, why don't we make one just like that and make it available? So we worked with the team over at Catholic Woodworker, which is an awesome organization where they make these rosaries that are, I'm a bit of a rosary diva. Some I'm like, it's too heavy. That one's too light. This was literally just perfect. And they were able to customize, make this rosary using the same type of crucifix that Blessed Pier Giorgio had on his, a centerpiece like he had of Our Lady and a little medal of a Blessed Pier Giorgio Frassati. And so they're giving these things away. They've given us, I think, like 50 or 100 of these things for free. And so we are going to be giving these away for free to anybody who supports this mission that we're doing on Patreon. You just go to patreon.com/Jason Everett. We'll put the link in the show notes. If you support us at any amount to keep this show going, we will just personally mail you one of these things for free. The value of this thing is, they're pricey rosaries if you get them off the site, but honestly, worth every single penny because how beautifully these things are made. But we'll just send you the thing for free. And so just support us on patreon.com. Get a free rosary modeled after Blessed Pier Giorgio Frassati's. And also through your funds, you're able to support a good cause in helping us to get this mission out to the church and the world. God bless. And don't forget, at the end, if you could like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. That helps this video and the other ones we do be shown to more people. God bless.